affects every single family and job creator across our great state. This morning, I had the privilege of listening to people both in Bridgeport with the Kennedy Collective and then also in Derby at Team Inc., which is also a private nonprofit that administers the Connecticut Energy Assistance Program. I was actually there with Representative DeLauro. She was announcing more federal funding for this. But what I found particularly poignant were the stories of actual individuals who are facing unbelievable choices in their life because they can't afford a basic necessity in this state, a state that has been blessed with unparalleled wealth, but yet, for one reason or another, our state is becoming more not only unaffordable, but in the area of energy, people can't even afford the basic necessities to survive. One individual talked two-income household. Two-income, both parents go to work every day. Last year, they had enough energy to get through the winter. This year, they can't do that because they're only getting half the benefit despite the amount of money both the state and federal government has put into it. The conversation turned, as it would, to energy and electricity, which we're going to deal with more here today. And the question is, can't we do better? My thought is absolutely we can do better, particularly now when we have the resources to meet that challenge. But we have to look at both short-term and long-term solutions. And we believe that what we're going to show today is the better way that does both of those things. Because resoundingly, whether it was the veteran who is on a fixed income and can't sustain even a $15 increase in his cable bill, or a single mother who wants to just heat their home, the fact of the matter is they all resoundingly said that when we ask and pay for energy, the only thing that should be on our electric bill is the cost of the electricity. There shouldn't be anything else there. Whether it's a tax, whether it's a public policy choice, these are essential necessities, services that people need just to get by. As one family said, to survive. And yet our government is interfering in that, and so when people get their bills, they find other costs, other charges, other policy decisions that really rightfully belong in our general fund for transparency and honesty purposes. Those need to be off the budget, off the bill. So today we're going to hear our solution, our better way, in order to give people in Connecticut what they're asking for. And I don't care if you're in a boardroom or a barbershop. This is the conversation. People know their energy is too expensive, and they're asking us to do our job and find a better way. You're going to hear it this morning or this afternoon. With that, I'll turn it over to Vin Candelora.
Thank you, and good afternoon. I think also to this point, it's been personally gratifying for lawmakers to beat up on energy companies and to blame them for the high cost of energy. But bottom line is, I think our lawmakers need to look to themselves and ask why these increases have been occurring time over time. Republicans today are going to offer a solution to some of these problems that frankly have been built up over the years. The reality is that government is deeply entrenched in energy and is a partner in energy. I think, as Senator Kelly pointed out, there are many costs embedded into our bills that are policies that lawmakers have passed. Some of them are laudable, but they are all paid for by the ratepayers. We have sales tax and gross receipt taxes on these bills that are all put on top of our ratepayers. And so what we are here today to say is that government needs to step to the table, stop the short-term political rhetoric, and come up with some viable solutions that will not just fix our energy problem in the short term, but also start addressing are long-term problems in the state of Connecticut. And I will turn it back to Senator Kelly to introduce other speakers and outline our details.
Thank you, Vin. And now Senator Ryan Fazio will go through the details of the plan.
Thank you, Senator. This is an issue obviously top of mind for all residents across Connecticut. This rise in electricity costs that we're facing this winter is a disaster for our economy and for our families, but Connecticut's electricity costs have been far too high for far too long. A study just the other week came out saying that we have the highest electricity costs in the continental US. That's higher than all of our neighbors, even though that those like Rhode Island are further down the natural gas and logistical pipeline, and you would expect to have higher costs. So something's afoot, something's wrong in the state of Connecticut. And to a large extent, it's mistakes of public policy, of government policy in this Capitol dome that bear responsibility for the high cost that we face. So we want to be constructive as a House and Senate caucus. We want to work in a substantive fashion in order to solve this problem for the middle class, for the working class in Connecticut. And that's the justification, the rationale, and the motivation for this plan. The two overarching goals of this plan are first to reduce costs for consumers and expand reliable and affordable generation of electricity. The second main goal of the plan is to strengthen oversight of our utilities in order to protect ratepayers. The first one, in order to reduce costs, there's three proposals. First, to migrate the costs embedded in our electricity bills from public policy decisions and charges and roll some of those back. Put them into the normal legislative process, given that those public policy costs are not actually generating electricity or distributing and transmitting electricity. So those add up about 14 different line items, adding up to about $280 million, which divides out to about $210 per year for the average household. That should, again, be reduced and should be put into the budgetary process where they can have a full vetting. They could be funded that way rather than hidden away from plain sight, embedded in our electricity bill. The second is to simplify and expand the renewable portfolio standard so we can ensure that we have an all of the above, a successful and affordable all of the above clean energy approach. That means combining Class 2 and Class 1 of the renewable portfolio standard and adding in nuclear energy and all hydroelectric energy. They're reliable, they're clean, they're affordable. We should have all sources of clean energy competing so the best ones rise to the top and we can have a cleaner grid, but also a reliable and affordable grid. And third, as far as affordability is concerned, we should re-examine the standard service program and the procurement process for power, for electricity in our state. Obviously, the standard service is driving the rise of costs and also driving many consumers away from standard service under our EDCs. The second part of the plan is to strengthen oversight of the electric utilities. That means first separating DEEP and PURA so they can both do their jobs independently and effectively, and we give PURA more autonomy and ability to give oversight and protect consumers. It means reevaluating the settlement process for rate cases and storm cases so that we have better protections for ratepayers, and that settlements, we have confidence that they're transparent and that they are actually in the best interest of our ratepayers. And finally, making changes to the decoupling process so that we can incentivize electrical utilities to keep the lights on, to maintain the reliability of the electricity grid. We want to be substantive here. We want to solve problems. First and foremost, we are confident that this plan in the short run can reduce costs for consumers by over $210 per year and by more in the long run. We're ready and willing to work with our colleagues across the aisle, and we appreciate everyone's time for being here. I'd also like to introduce Representative Bill Buckby, who's the ranking member of Energy, to make some comments as well.
Thank you. Good afternoon. That's a lot to swallow and a lot to take in, right? It's a lot of information. I think one of the biggest issues we have in this state is understanding and the educational piece that comes with your bill. Every other bill you look at, it's very easy to pay your bill, understand what's on there. A lot of people just simply don't understand what they're paying. I think it's critical that the bill that Senator Fazio and myself introduced will lay some of that out for you. The other piece of this I think that's critical is third-party supply in this state. Third-party supply for electricity has dropped significantly. 10 years ago we had what, 15, 18, 20 choices? Now residentially you've got 3. You got 3 choices. That's it. So where'd they go? That's my big question. I want to know where they went, why'd they leave. There were some bad actors that were sent packing, and they deserve to be. But there's good companies that left our state that don't want to do business here, and I think we need to reevaluate that and see where they are. The reason that's so important, too, is that's where standard rate used to be. Used to be a third-party supplier bidding on that piece. So you would bid to try to get third-party supply to be the supplier for the state. Now the state's procuring the energy. It's kind of like me saying, hey, Senator, would you like to take a trip to Orlando tomorrow? Well, you know what? We have to leave today. Let's go buy our ticket today, as opposed to if we had bought the ticket 6 months ago. We need to be smarter in how we plan to procure the energy. There's a lot going on this table, and there's a lot of educational pieces that have to happen. I don't want to reiterate what everyone else has said, which has been fantastic. But there's a lot of information there. I'm not looking to throw blame at anybody. We're not looking to throw rocks and throw bricks. We want to find solutions, and that's the critical piece we have to do right now. Because we're just saying, this isn't something that affects one part of the population. This is every single person. We all need to be worried about paying the bills. We all want to make sure that light goes on. So the reliability of the grid is huge. The affordability of the grid is huge. And of course, we want to make it as green and environmentally friendly as we possibly can.